and it will not directly affect it insofar as the order of the president is concerned. The only way it might be affected is if either the governor or the mayor should decide in prudence that it perhaps ought to be delayed. Would it be delayed? It probably would not be delayed as of this moment because of any action on our part.
Ostensibly, this is an 8-lane bridge, part of Interstate Highway 635, but it has much deeper significance because it is the first in Dallas County to be built with the specifications that will apply when the Trinity River becomes navigable. And the work on this project includes 1 1/3 miles of the canal, which will actually be the navigation channel sometime in the future on the Trinity River. The several hundred people who are gathered here are as interested in navigation as they are in the extension of a superhighway around the southern Dallas County. Transportation Secretary John Volpe was the principal speaker here. He says this is a good example of cooperation and planning between various departments. He pointed out the Coast Guard and the Corps of Engineers work with the highway people when it comes to bridging navigable waterways. Incidentally, next month, Congress is expected to appropriate the first $150,000 for the Trinity River project. It will be the money for beginning the actual design work. After helping formally break the ground here, Secretary Volpe held a news conference at which he was questioned on several subjects.
How will such a cutback affect long-range projects such as the Trinity Canal? Would this have any effect on projects like this?
Well, here again, the Trinity Canal, the bridge phase of it at least, is also partially state-funded, partially federal-funded. Corps of Engineer projects may be affected where there is 100% participation by the federal government. In this particular project, I could not say what effect it would have. Generally, it is the President's belief, and mine also, that those projects which have already been started ought to be completed. What he is talking about primarily is new starts.
Well, I have expressed myself before that I believe in open primaries. We have a number of good candidates, potential candidates for governor. I feel that our candidate in 1968, Paul Eggers, did an outstanding job and was very popular with the people of Texas. I do not know what his plans or intentions are, but we have men like Paul Eggers and a number of others that would make excellent candidates and would make excellent governor, would make an excellent governor for the state of Texas.
Now, with all the controversy we've had in the legislature this session and with the special sessions, do you feel that there has been a wide conflict of playing individual against individual, the governor against the lieutenant governor against the Speaker of the House?
Unquestionably, the reports that we've had indicate that there has been a play by all of the leadership. There have been the lobbyists and the beer interest and the business interest have been playing against each other. And in the process, we have practically had a chaotic session of the legislature.
The Dallas School Superintendent said this morning that something is going to have to be done to get some 500 students missing here from Pinkston High School back into school. And Dr. Nolan Estes indicated that an entirely new approach to the school system's vocational education program might be part of an answer. 2,200 students are assigned here to Pinkston High School, but only 1,800 are enrolled. After visiting the school this morning, Dr. Estes lamented that many of those enrolled are not even taking courses that will help them get jobs once they graduate. He said rooms with expensive welding equipment and qualified teachers have only about 5 students per class, while Latin classes have as much as 35 students per class. But the missing 500 aren't getting any kind of schooling, and the superintendent is appealing to various local agencies for help in getting the students off the streets and into the schools. Dr. Estes said the school system has done everything it can in this regard, even to the fully staffed School Community Guidance Center across the street from Pinkston. And one other special effort by the school district was announced this morning by Dr. Estes and representatives from the Wiley Foundation. It's a 3-year, $45,000 grant to the school system for the hiring of a new special Mexican-American assistant.
This person will be employed to assist us with curriculum development, particularly as it relates to making sure that the Mexican American is appropriately represented in our curriculum materials, will assist us in recruiting, selecting, employing, and promoting representatives from the Mexican American community on our staff here in the school district, and in addition will serve as an important liaison from the school board and the school district to the Mexican American community.
Estes says the percentage of black students to teachers is about equal, but correspondingly there ought to be an equal percentage of Mexican American teachers and students. That means about 500 Mexican American teachers, but so far the district has only been able to hire about 50 Mexican American teachers. This is Teal Salon in Dallas for Channel 8 News.
Well, of course, as you all probably know, housing starts are already off from $1.9 million in January to $1.35 million in July on an annual basis. We feel that if this tax reform bill is passed, that housing starts will drop very sharply below the 1 million level at a time when the government is trying to have a housing goal of 2.6 million a year. In fact, if housing starts remain at their current level today, within 20 years, we would be more ill-housed than we were at the end of World War II when there had been no housing built in the United States for 20 years.
What about the slum areas in the future years?
We feel that this is one of our primary areas of problem, and it's an area that needs concentrating on most of all. There have been several government programs which have been developed, such as the FHA 235 and 236 programs, which should cope with these. The biggest problem is, whereas Secretary Romney is trying to obtain additional funds for these, in reality, unless they are funded by Congress, very little is going to be done.
center. Let me say at the outset to Dr. Glorig that although he may not be as tall as some people, physically, his stature among the people in this room and those who are familiar with his work is of greater magnitude than any person here today. Just going through this wonderful modern center with Dr. Glorig this morning, one became immediately impressed and felt a sense of the urgency that he felt, the dedication that he feels to helping these young people. And as I listened to the children, the little girl that gave the invocation, the ones that sang the national anthem, it was a poignant moment. It was a moment that makes us all realize how little of our time the average person gives to human causes. People like Dr. Glorig give everything every day, and I think we ought to let them know, Dr. Silverman, Dr. Glorig, Mrs. Johnston, and the others in this center, how much we appreciate the dedication and the purpose they bring to this important task. The power to communicate distinguishes modern civilization from all that have gone before. The ability to communicate is the capability to unite the world. It's the key to political success and the keystone of our economy. For the individual in our complex system, the ability to communicate is not only essential to success, but to survival. Yet, for many Americans, in fact, for as many as 4 out of every 15 Americans, the opportunity to communicate is diminished by a hearing or speech disorder. I doubt if any of us who is not afflicted can comprehend the loneliness of silence. The deaf child is locked into a confusing world. The deaf aged are locked out of a dynamic society. The child's outlook becomes one of desolation. The elderly person's life becomes one of isolation. For the many who fall in between these age groups, communication disorders are debilitating handicaps that separate them from the fullness of our world. Many triumph over their problems, and this is a tribute to their individual courage. Many more fall by the way, and this, of course, is a tragedy for society. Today we dedicate a center that is the product of those dedicated to keeping the many more from falling by the way. The Callier Center is America's most complete speech and hearing complex. It merits the label comprehensive by achieving the most stringent standards of professional excellence. It is having men like Eric Johnson be willing to become the mayor of a big city and take on the big city problems. Civic involvement is taking the time to think about the future of your city, to define your goals for it, and explain them to other citizens so that they too can become involved. Civic involvement is, above all, an esprit de corps and a sense of obligation that spurs a community to vigorous action. It's an attitude that does not just ask more of Austin or Washington, but first demands the most of Dallas. And this is the story of your city. It offers a message of hope and a plan of action for every city in this country. This administration has elevated the problems of the city to a priority equaling national security. The President has proposed a new program of new federalism to restore resources and initiative to state and local governments. I'm confident that if enacted, this new federalism can do much. It restores power and initiative to state governments and local governments. It provides for revenue sharing. It transfers manpower programs to the states where they may be designed and operated in conformity with regional manpower needs. It proposes daycare centers for the young and work training for the dropout. a hand up for the working poor, and a decent standard of living for all. All of these measures are vital to reduce the burdens on city governments and release the energies of all levels of government for future national development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for the generosity of your commendation and the stimulation and inspiration of your message. Dr. Glorig and I, on behalf of the Callier Hearing and Speech Center, express our gratitude. Dr. Glorig, will you join me?
Mr. Vice President, your Hearing and Speech Center is dedicated to the welfare of all persons from the youngest to the oldest who suffer difficulties in communications, to serve all such persons through combinations of the highest skills, the most efficient methods and tools, the deepest heart, to the prospect that by its being it may provide the thrust and even the breakthrough to the elimination of such suffering. This building and work toward these goals have been made possible by generous donors from a community of people steeped in traditions of caring and of excellence. It is fitting that this institution be filled with an air of thanksgiving for them and for challenges and successes